Hey everybody, I know that if you live in British Columbia, you've probably received by now some of this information and the actual ballots for the proportional voting proposal they want to bring about in British Columbia. And so what they're saying is they want to change our voting system to, instead of first past the post, they call it, where, now what is going on here? I'm getting these weird things coming up. They want to change our first past the post system that we have now to being proportional voting. And I understand why they're wanting to do that because, well, the complaint was, of course, here we go, with first past the post, a majority government could be formed with the support of far less than 50% of the voters. So people say, oh man, you know, we got the NDP alliance here in British Columbia, but really the Liberals got the majority of the voters. So why it shouldn't have been this way. I understand that. But here is my thoughts. I am not in favor of this. And here is a couple of reasons why. And actually the man that was going around handing out these sheets here and discussing it with us came to the door here. I actually went to school with him way back in university days, and I didn't know he'd moved to Campbell River. But I pointed out my reasons, and he hadn't heard them before. So I thought what I would do is talk about it. The first thing that I think about this proportional voting is, what this means is we're switching from electing a local person we know who is one of our peers and we want them to represent us in the provincial government. We're switching from electing a person to electing a party. Now, I know most people vote for a person because they're in a party, you know, but we're switching our thinking of how the country was set up. The country was set up so that all the little regions and towns and villages all over the province would elect a representative from their own peers, people we know, and send them to the provincial government. And that would be how our province would be run. We couldn't be overpowered by a big city or whatever. We all get a say. Now, proportional voting, even though you're still voting for a person, the focus is, let's get the party in that's got the majority. And I don't think that's right. I think we want to have a system where we're represented by a person, even if they're independent. Another thought that I have is, I've been in countries as a minister preaching where they have this proportional representation, like in Holland. And even though some people like it, my friends over there think it's a schmoz. It's just kind of chaotic because there's all this kind of crazy representation. There's all kinds of people and parties get involved, not just 3 or 4, and they could have a dozen or something. I think Israel's doing that too. And what happens is, it's just it's just a big toss-up. They're constantly trying to figure out how they're going to have an alliance and stuff. It's not a great government system, I don't think. So I don't want to see that in British Columbia. Another reason is that when we get proportional voting in, what happens is they have to fiddle with the results to try to balance it so the party that got the greatest proportion of voters, you know, gets their portion up because all the ridings elected something, you know, various people. And so, you know, you saw, if you could figure out what that brochure said, because there was a booklet came, remember, and you read through it and you went, what on earth are they talking about here? But what happens is they get, you know, so we elect our local representatives, but now they're going to adjust it and top it up and move some people around. What happens if a person during the middle of their term decides, hey, I'm not going to stay with the NDP, I'm going to cross the floor and go over to Liberals or whatever? Are they going to go around and start tweaking all the other ridings to get it leveled up again? That just seems weird to me. So anyway, that's my second thought. My third thought, and here, listen to this one, because I think this is just absolutely a key. We already have proportional voting. but it's in our own riding. They want to switch it so it's just for the province. We have proportional voting in our riding already. When we vote in an election in Campbell River, the person that gets the most vote is elected as our MLA. We have proportional voting, but it's in the local area. So what they're saying is they're going to switch proportional voting from the local area, from our particular riding, to the provincial area, and it'll be by party, not by person. And what bothers me about that is that means the big voting blocks that go a certain way can overload us little towns and villages and districts outside the rest of the province. All of a sudden, we could have a mass of people in Vancouver who think a particular way, overpowering the rest of the province. You understand what I'm saying? Now, that's why I object. The final objection is more of an observance of what's going on with modern politics. Now, you look at what's going on in the United States right now, this whole thing about this migrant caravan. The UN has a plan. They wrote about it, 10 years ago or something, where they'd like to see the United States flooded over the 20-year period with 600 million immigrants. That's all written down. I've seen it. Now, that will overflow into Canada and everywhere else. What would happen if you suddenly have this massive overflow of people like that? What would proportional voting do in that situation? Where all of a sudden, you've got a party that has really, pulled these people in and gets their votes, because it becomes proportional. It's not in our area. So you could have, millions and millions of new immigrants head into the big cities, and suddenly they're overpowering all the small villages and towns that want to have their type of representation go into the provincial legislature. You follow what I'm saying? So I just don't think this is a great idea. I think we need to stay with first past the post, which is local proportional representation, not provincial proportional representation. Our local reps, our local MLAs were put in there by the majority in our area who know them. And that's the biggest deal I see going on with this. So I'm putting this out there. You might have completely different ideas, and that's okay. I mean, that's what the vote's all about, isn't it? It's freedom. But we're discussing this, and I thought I'd get this out to you so you could, start the ball rolling. Think about what I'm saying and pass it around, because I think this is really, really critical in this time, and we should just stay with what we got. Okay? That's my thoughts for the day. Thanks.